Commodore, members of the management committee, invited guests, comrades, general manager and staff, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to begin by expressing my thanks to the Barbados Yacht Club for this opportunity to speak to you, and also to Mr. Leacock for his generous introduction. When I accepted this invitation, there was with some degree of trepidation, because as there are those who have been throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at me to try to undermine my candidature for president of the Democratic Labour Party. First, they said I was a political neophyte, but that didn't stick, as persons were aware, as David said, of my leading the Windrush scandal campaign against the UK government. And further, while they said I hadn't yet won a parliamentary election, I made the point that I haven't lost one or even two. They then claimed I was misogynistic, but that didn't stick because I was a delegate at the UN World Conference on Women and worked professionally on women in development issues. I further explained that I didn't choose to run against a female, but I'm legitimately challenging the incumbent who happens to be female. Then they said I hadn't been around Barbados for ages, but that didn't stick because people knew I was away from Barbados, first working as your ambassador, and more recently, out of necessity, because no one would offer me work here. Then they tried to say I was part of an old guard, but that fell apart, as many of the old guard have been vocal in the support of my opponent. They claimed that I was like a grave digger starting at the top, until I pointed out it's not where you start that matters, but where you finish, and I have only just begun. So, I suspect after this presentation, some will suggest I must be related to the Goddards or the Mannings or Wilkinsons or Challoners, but such is the nature of politics. I want to begin my presentation here at the Yacht Club to say that this being here is consistent with the vision of the Right Excellent Errol Walton Barrow and the type of progress that we have made as a people. I want to suggest that I felt very included by how the catch of the day was prepared today. I was surprised when I was working on this book on Errol Barrow, Fathering a Nation, to learn that the first person to be allowed to formally join the Democratic Labour Party was Douglas Lynch. Later, Sir Douglas, the chairman of BS&T. Furthermore, he ran as a candidate in Christchurch in 1956. So that while there may be some historic impediments existing today, it is important for us to appreciate that the vision of the father of our independence was profoundly inclusive from its inception. His vision transcended race and class and gender, and if you knew his cabinet, you could probably say sexual orientation as well. But his vision is embodied in our anthem, for our hearts to be bound from coast to coast by the pride of nationhood. I feel it's appropriate coming here to some of y'all I've not had the pleasure of yet meeting to give you a sense of myself. I have three passions in life: my faith, my family and friends, and this fair land of ours. There are some others that we won't mention because we're amongst polite company, but I will see those fellas in the bar after. It is on this last reason, this love of this fair land of ours, this pride of nationhood, that I have stood up and stepped out, and am seeking to make a journey of faith with the people of Barbados. A journey upward and onward, inspired, exalting, free, making this journey under the belief that greater will our nation grow in strength and unity. I had chosen as my topic a path to praise and progress and prosperity, and I was going to focus on the economy. But I thought rather than doing a lot of economic razzle-dazzle today, I thought I would share my thoughts in advance. And I'm thankful that the nation on Sunday and this morning carried what I have been saying about the economy. I hope that you all have had the chance to read it and use that as an opportunity for us to engage each other in the question and answer segment. But right now, I want us to explore together what it means for us to write our names on history's page with expectations great and be strict guardians of our heritage and firm craftspersons of our fate. Barbados has been blessed with a few great leaders. We've had some good ones, and given the law of averages, a few not so good. But one of the things that we have to deal with as we look to others or even look to ourselves, that no one is born a leader, and there is no shortcut to becoming a competent leader, whether it is in the home, the community, in business, or in the nation. Leadership, like all competencies, is developed through deliberate practice. It evolves by taking risks and working hard and stretching yourself and stepping outside of your comfort zone. Contrary to popular belief, leadership is not something that you are born with. It is not inherited or a result of your DNA. Leaders are made when they connect their purpose and their unique strengths with a deep passion to make a difference in the world. John Fitzgerald Kennedy held that one person can make a difference and every person should try. And his point is significant to all of us, that regardless of talents or abilities or age or opportunity, we can do something, each and every one of us, to help solve today's challenges and transform lives and the well-being of our nation. And it's an point that I feel is important to underscore, because too often individuals are unconsciously abdicating responsibility and letting governments worry about the common good while they focus on their own concerns, when in fact each and every one of us are called to be our sisters and brothers' keeper. We need to recover that notion that we as citizens are agents of change, not mere beneficiaries of the benevolence of the state. And we must restore our pride and industry as individuals. Preventing the further deterioration of our social, economic, and psychological circumstance will require nothing less than the wholesale transformation of our current mindset. It will require the effort of all of us and a willingness for us to work tirelessly to redirect our key institutions, our education, business, civil society, public administration, unions, government, and the media. We need to change and reset the way we think and what we do. We have to harness all of the drivers of change if we are truly to push on upward and onward in this most difficult time. And where do we begin? It's very easy for politicians to say begin with them, but we have to begin with ourselves. We have to all commit towards trying to find the solutions to the challenges we face. It's not just for a prime minister or a cabinet or a governor or a set of advisors. It is for each of us. Each and every one of us has to adjust our mirror image and to see within ourselves the builders of Barbados, the guardians of our heritage, and firm craftspeople of our fate. On taking office a long time ago, Winston Churchill said this: if we open a quarrel between the present and the past, we will be in danger of losing the future. If we open a quarrel between the present and the past, we are in danger of losing the future. And here we are, each administration of government blaming the previous one for the problems we face. And it has to stop, because all they keep doing is looking back and pointing their fingers and offering no viable solution to how we move forward. Despite the lack of hair, I subscribe to what the Rastas say: forward ever. All right? But I know this is no small feat. We are in serious social and economic circumstances. So it has to be all hands on deck. And for all those who truly love this fair land, we have to accept that doing nothing is no longer an option. Some time ago, a new dawn broke on the Caribbean. It ended the era when old colonial ties, or more recently geopolitical significance, gave us a place in the world. Those days are done. We have to do it on our own. And I know that sounds ominous. There are those who wish to hear promises from the regime in power or harsh rhetoric about what others fail to do as a substitute for policy or direction. But our challenge is not going to be resolved by rhetoric, and we can only have faith in the future if we have faith in ourselves. Today, we are confronted by an unknown and an uncertain future. It would be easier for us to shrink from the anxieties of the unknown, to look to the mediocrity of the past, to be lulled by good intentions and effective PR, or mobilized by promises or handouts or kickbacks. But we all now have to recognize that this will not carry us forward, and each and every one of us who love this fair land of ours has to be willing to put their hand to the plow. And so those who consider supporting me in my journey forward, some of them who are here today, know that I am asking everyone here to be pioneers of a new dawn. My calling is to the young at heart, regardless of age, to the stout in spirit, regardless of political affiliation, and to all who respond to the scriptured call: be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened or dismayed. Because at this time, at this historic moment in Barbados, we need courage, not complacency. Today, we need leadership, not salesmanship. So, we get back to where I was introduced. How do we do this? What is my vision? And as I said, the path forward for me rests on 3 pillars, which I call the 3 Ps: peace, which is governance and the rule of law, progress, social development, social inclusion and social stability, and prosperity through economic growth and diversification. In terms of peace, we need to accept that drugs and politics don't mix. The immediate and most obvious consequence of drug trafficking on democracy is the promotion of violence. One of my team members lost her godson only recently. Violence in Barbados has to end. We have to get the guns. And we have to get those who hold them and those who facilitate their entry into this fair land of ours. We cannot allow public officials to be corrupted by the influence of drugs or those who feel that there's a quick buck or an easy way out. We cannot abide by those known to the courts proliferating our national functions and being given legitimacy in the eyes of young people to feel that that is the way to go. We must do better. We need to stamp out corruption in this country. It is a cancer that undermines conscientiousness and productivity, and it is eroding people's faith in democracy, and it is depleting an already exhausted national budget. As I said before, opposing corruption is not simply good governance, it is our patriotic duty. And for that, I had the pleasure of traveling to Singapore and learning about a most comprehensive approach to anti-corruption, which they call the 4 A's. Effective anti-corruption acts or legislation, an effective anti-corruption agency, effective adjudication, which is punishment, and effective government administration. Those 4 A's have been able to wipe out corruption in Singapore. But what it has been driven by is political will, where the public is engaged and where everyone believes there are no no-go areas or exceptions made for anyone. So if our nation is to grow in strength and unity, the citizens of this country must call for a new cadre of politicians in all political parties who put country before party and neighbor before self. It must be a case of political aspirants asking not what can your country do for you, but what can you do for your country? And it is a responsibility of all citizens to make them explain to you what are they intending to do. On progress, and we're talking about social development, social inclusion, and social stability. We boast of an exceptional educational system. But when I was last working in this field and I last checked, the majority of students going through our secondary school system do not leave with 5 CSEC or O levels, which is the requirement to go into the world of work. The issue of the work readiness of our graduates is a serious equality issue. We, as the adults of today, need to take responsibility for what happens to our young people, because they are going to be the resources that we are going to have to draw on when we can't do it for ourselves. So we invest in them for their sake, but also for ours as well. But we have challenges. Despite considerable investments made by successive administrations, the tears in our social fabric are getting larger due to poverty, age, gender-based conflict, drug abuse, family dysfunction, health problems, both non-communicable diseases and mental health. We have male underperformance in education, community erosion, and now structural adjustment on our back. In 2004, I led a small team that proposed an overhaul of our social services to the Arthur administration to rationalize its structure and function. And the focus of that was much like what was done with the Barbados Revenue Authority, but I dare say it would have been a lot more efficient, which is to bring all departments and agencies that deal with social services, welfare issues, into a single institutional entity. That there is one organization that takes responsibility for all of the less fortunate in our country, for those who need, whether it is a step up or a hand up or just a guide forward. We need to do this. We cannot keep throwing money haphazardly at our problems. We need to be able to be systematic about it. Prosperity, economic growth, and diversification. Managing a small, open island economy is far from easy. We lack the economies of scale due to our small size. Our openness makes us more vulnerable to external shocks. The narrow resource base prevents us from easily diversifying or satisfying the needs of our populace. And as an island state, we are particularly vulnerable to global climate change, and we know that natural disasters threaten our very existence, as we realized recently. But notwithstanding this difficult wicket, Barbados had proven in the past that these constraints could be overcome with competent leadership, good governance, sound administration, and effective public policies, including strong economic management. We transitioned from agriculture to tourism successfully in the late 60s and 70s, and later into financial services, but we are far from there yet. Notwithstanding this 8-member core economic advisory team, and I'm not counting the public servants, got 2 ministers, an ambassador, and 3 full-time economic advisors that we know of. I am not talking about the multi-million dollars investment or expenditure spent on White Oak. The World Bank has indicated that Barbados' economy fell by 17.6% last year. That is not the issue. The issue is we are one of the worst performing economies globally. This is not about COVID. This is about who we got about here running our affairs into the ground. Jamaica contracted by 10%, 10.2. Trinidad and Tobago, 17.8. Even Dominica outperformed us. And they're using some of the same advisors. But I guess them getting better value for money down there. According to the IMF, our debt to GDP ratio is at 147%. It ranks us now as the 7th most indebted country in the world. And at this time, when unemployment through the roof and nobody, except probably the people who say it, feels that unemployment is at 17.2%. Because we know that is counting those looking for work. And the majority of people in the hotel sector know there's no work out there, so they're not counted. As we struggle to make ends meet, Barbados is one of the most expensive places in the world. And you all know it because you're going to supermarkets. You all pay the bills with the levies and all of that. We are struggling to make ends meet. And then they talk about doing business. We were talking about the international business and financial service sector. We are down towards the low end in doing business. The World Bank ranks us at 128th in the world. Jamaica, 71. St. Lucia, 93. Again, Dominica at 111. You can imagine it's easier to do business in Dominica than this here island of ours. This is where we are. So we have to say this is no longer about B or D. This is about all of we. And we have to take a quantum leap of faith, because as a nation, we have to come to terms with the reality that this is not good enough. This is not about party allegiance. We have to be aligned to this land that we love. So we need to face facts and get the right people and develop the right strategy and put the right policies in place to chart our way to a stronger, more resilient, and more diversified and sustainable economy. Economic prosperity and a safe and just society are part of my vision, and I know it is within our grasp. I know I don't have every answer, and there are some questions that have not been asked yet that are waiting on resources that we don't have to move forward in the future. I know there are going to be setbacks and sacrifices still ahead, but I feel that we as a people must be ready to give something back to our nation in return for all it has given us. I am willing to do that. That's why I am here. And I suspect many of you here, especially those with children and grandchildren or great-grands, that want to see this country be something of a legacy for those who they will leave behind, will want to do this. So, notwithstanding the uncertainty ahead, there is much that we can be certain of, because the lessons of history have taught us that if we have competent leadership and a dedicated team, and in consulting with and through the support of the people, all the difference can be made. We can make this journey together successfully. I know, as I'm sure many of you know, that we can do better as a nation. All we have to do is to be willing to work together. I'm going to stop there and just continue to ask that the Lord bless and guide our people as he always has. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you.